Welcome, everyone. We are so glad you are here and thank you for joining us. My name is Hillary Jones. I am the Executive Director of Professional Learning at Foundations, and welcome to our Beyond the Conference webinar. We are so glad to have you here today. Today, we have Tom Swatsky from Arux Software, and we'll be getting started shortly. But before we do, I want to give you a little background information about Foundations. So Foundations, Inc. is a national education nonprofit. We are located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And our mission is to improve the quality of education by building the skills of educators. So we work across the school day with after school programs, schools, districts, and states to create a bright future for every child every day. And so we invite you at this time to follow us on social media, to stay engaged with the work that we're doing. I will drop some links in the chat that you can use and access for that. But welcome to our conversation for today. We are so pleased to have you here. And I would not want to forget to invite you that many of you already know that we host the Beyond School Hours Conference each February. And in 2027, we will be in New Orleans for our 30th anniversary. So we hope you'll join us. And ARUX will be there, so you can stop by their booth and meet them in person. So at this time, I'm going to pass it over to Tom Swatsky, our moderator for today.
All right. Well, thank you, Hillary. We appreciate the introduction, and we're also grateful for the Foundations team and the work that they do every day and at the Beyond School Hours Conference. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we're going to start just with some introductions. Hi, everyone. My name is Tom Swatsky. I'm very excited to be a part of today's conversation. I'm on the sales and marketing team at Arux Software, and we're going to talk a little bit about who Arux is and how we get to kind of partner with organizations in the after-school space. But I've been in this industry for 7 years. Before then, I worked selling math technology to middle school age programs, but I'm grateful to be in this space. And I'm surrounded by a really cool team of after school leaders today from across the country. As you get to know them and learn about their bios, I think one of the things that we're excited about is that these are after school leaders that represent a variety of different geographies, but also organization types. So we have nonprofits, YMCAs, public school districts represented from New York all the way to California. So with that, I'm going to have them introduce themselves and all the great work that they do for their communities. And then we're going to dive into the conversation.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name's Seth Weinberg. I'm the Extended Care Program Director for Rincon Valley Union School District. That means we run the district's before and after school care and all of the intercession camps. I'm actually at our summer day camp right now. And then we also manage other things that fall outside the school day, like athletics and enrichment programs for the district in general. And my background, I've been working in daycare for about 6 years with Rincon Valley, but I come from working at outdoor schools in California, running camps and bringing kids out into the woods. So I have a little bit more experience with older students and learned a lot about working with younger elementary grades when I joined this. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kayla Hendrickson. I'm the Director of School Age Childcare Services for the YMCA of Central and Northern Westchester here in New York. I've been with the Y for over 20 years, always in the school age sector. Today, I oversee all of our before and after school programs across multiple school districts. We serve over 1,000 children each day. A large part of my role is recruitment, developing and supporting our staff, while ensuring that we continue to provide high quality programs for the children and families in our care. One of the unique things about our Y is that we are a YMCA without walls, so we do not have the facility that everybody kind of thinks about when they think of the Y with the gym and swim. We run all of our childcare programs out of community spaces, so we are really good at being flexible and sharing with others. It's great to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Hello, my name is Patrick McFadden. I work with the Madison School District out in Phoenix, Arizona. I have been with Madison for just a little over 21 years, all of which have been with Madison School District, all of which is in community ed. Our department handles K through 8 as well as preschool age, so 3 to 5 year olds. We, similar to Seth, we also oversee enrichment facilities, things of that magnitude as well, and excited to kind of present for everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Fry. I'm the program manager for Minneapolis Public Schools Community Education here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I, like my colleagues, also work in community ed that oversees a lot of our programs in the school district. I myself oversee our child care programs, and that is our school age and also our teen parent program. I've been with the district for 22 years, all in school age care, and even before that in college, worked in childcare in a different district. I'm excited to be here today and to get into some topics. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, everyone. So before we dive in, we wanted to just pause and again thank the Foundations organization for creating today's space. Foundations is an awesome organization that provides resources throughout the year, including webinars like this. They have other toolkits and professional development resources available on their website. They are also the team behind the Beyond School Hours conference. As mentioned, Arux will be at that conference. It has a great energy, a ton of great programming, and they're celebrating 30 years this year at their annual conference in New Orleans, which is February 17th through the 20th. So if you are not familiar, we recommend checking out the organization and getting signed up before early bird registration ends the end of September. So a little bit about Arux before we get going. So Arux is a software company that's based in Minneapolis, just a mile away from Amy. It's also pouring and storming out. So if Amy and I hop off for a few minutes, we'll get our electricity back up and running. Arux was founded in 2006, so we're celebrating 20 years as an organization this year. And over the last 20 years, we've grown to a team of now 30 plus individuals. And our team, what we do is we build software for community ed and after school programs. And our software is being used today by over 200 organizations across the country. Our platform is a technology that organizations, school districts, YMCAs, and other organizations use to manage after school, before school, early learning, summer camp, enrichment programming. If you manage district facilities, we also help with that. But we control the entire process from end to end for districts. So you build your programs on Arux, families sign up for your programs, they make payments if you are fee-based. You use our software then to manage registrations, track attendance, run invoicing, collect payments, and manage all reporting. Especially if you have state reporting, we often work on APIs to make sure that that data is getting to where you need it to go. So finally, then we support communications as well. And why we kind of share that today is because, Arux, our platform, is used by a couple hundred programs across the country. And with that, we get to partner with some really cool organizations and really great leaders. And today's conversation is not about our Arux platform, but we are using this to pull together, as you've now met, 4 of our leaders from across the country to kind of talk about what they're doing to navigate the upcoming school year. And as we dive into today's topics, there's really 4 areas that we are going to focus on. And from there, we'll see where the conversation goes. But we met a couple weeks ago to talk about what's top of mind, what are the challenges that they're trying to solve, what are the opportunities ahead of next school year. And really what we saw is the first being around staff recruitment and career path development. We'll dive into this conversation and how the conversation has changed from just getting staffing back up to normal levels to how are we creating consistency from year to year for our staff and providing them opportunities to grow. We're then going to move on to a conversation around in the classroom itself and in the after school programming. What are things that we're doing to better support students throughout the year, especially as it relates to behavioral support and mental health resources. We're going to talk a little bit about engaging older youth and some of the things that we're trying to accomplish there that might look different from grades 3 to 5 than the type of enrichment you're layering in for kindergartners to second graders. And then finally, we're going to talk about stability across the department, across the organization and districts. So what are things that after school leaders are doing over the coming year to better connect with schools, better connect with admin at the schools that they service and provide programming for? I believe, we were possibly going to open it up to questions from the audience. I'm not sure if the chat is on right now for everyone. If we are able to enable the chat, feel free to use that to submit questions or resources that you think might be relevant to today's conversation. If that does not end up being something we can utilize, we'll make sure to follow up after this with other ways to share things that you're doing. We're going to take today's conversation, and not only will we make sure to share it with anyone who wants to have access to it, but we're also going to take some of the ideas and topics and use that to build out resources for everyone on the call, so that you have something that you can kind of use as you start to prepare for next school year. But with that said, we are going to dive in. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we'll come back to that later on as we close out, but we're going to dive into the conversation here. Okay, so I know we met a couple weeks ago as a panel and had a great conversation, and I'm going to kind of just start with a high level question as we think about next school year. I think one of the conversations throughout the whole year, but especially this time of year, is around staffing and career development, and making sure that everyone's feeling prepared to meet the needs of your community next school year. And so at a high level, before we get into specifics, how's everyone feeling about staffing right now? And maybe a little bit more specifically, how have you seen, if you look back 5 years ago, coming out of the pandemic where staffing was such a crisis, how are you feeling today compared to how you maybe were in the summers of past over the last 4 to 5 years?
Well, I'm happy to start and share that we're feeling very grateful right now. Our stability in staffing has really settled. Definitely out of the pandemic, we were very much bare bones, looking for anyone and everyone who'd be willing to come in and support. And we put a lot of different efforts in over the last couple years to really stabilize us that have worked. One of those was really introducing and expanding our site leader position. So I know all of us in this space have different titles. Our title and ladder is a childcare assistant. They're those split shift part-time roles. And then we had a couple of these childcare workers, which were site leaders just at our largest sites. That's the one we focused on building out. And then we have our site leadership, our program coordinators. We really expanded from 5 of those mid-level childcare workers into 30. In 20 for the school year 2022-23, we interviewed, and I think 15 of our childcare assistants received roles as the childcare worker. We created those also to be full-time. So we really supported our workforce by retaining what we have and then filling in with some new energy as well. What I will say is, as the years have gone on, 15 of those have stayed. And our turnover of that position is 12%. So it really did stabilize us. So I would say for us, we really invested into creating some career ladder and longevity, and it has worked out well for us.
And I know, Kayla, you had mentioned kind of creating some similar pathways. Do you want to share what those pathways are? And then I think, whether Kayla, Amy, I know Patrick, you were going to add in, I'd be curious, how do you present those pathways to your staff, and what part of the process is this something that you're kind of working in now? Are you working this into your actually hiring process? And I'd be curious to learn, after Kayla addresses kind of their pathways, what that process looks like.
Sure. So one of the biggest things to follow up with what Amy said is really having a visual career pathway for our staff. We felt that post-pandemic, we were getting a ton of turnover. It was hard to even get people in the door. So we did two things really. One was having that visual career pathway, showing people that you don't have to leave our organization in order to grow. There was plenty of room to grow right within where you were. And the second piece was really investing in the staff that we had. We started really helping facilitate having them pursue opportunities for professional development on their own accord. So not something that was mandated from us as the organization. Here in New York, we have a couple of different organizations. One of them is the New York State Network for Youth Success. So we do a lot of partnering with them. They offer a Site Leader Institute. They offer the SAC credential. We've really found that when we're investing in our team, not only do they want to stay with us, they want to grow with us, and we're really kind of helping them form that leadership pipeline. Also, we've been sending teams to NAA, and having them do, just kind of bigger training opportunities so they really can see like what's beyond, just here in our backyard.
And I'll chime in for my district. I've been blessed with our team. I've been with the district for 20 plus years. And my core site leadership has been around for 15 plus. And so there's been a lot of stability from a hierarchy, our site directors. Coming out of the pandemic, we definitely had some struggles where we were desperate for staff. And so you're taking anybody and everybody. And I know going to NAA and going to some conferences, talking with some people, many of you have also experienced that you're taking anything that walks through the door just to be a body, just to kind of maintain. And really coming out of that, we really invested in, similar to both Amy and Kayla, on creating a hierarchy of staff opportunities to grow into higher full-time positions, for when we do have some of our site leadership vacate positions due to starting families or moving states or things of that nature. They're coming in with experience. And so when we go into the applicant pool, we have people that have already kind of doing that job. We kind of have like a mid-range, you have your site leadership, and we've embedded some at a singular site. They're kind of our backups, we'll call them, for when we have people that are on our site leadership that are on vacation or sick leave and things like that. But really investing in their paths and partnering with your community colleges and your universities on bringing these staff in. And working at a school district, it's not just about what we can provide for you in the after school, but working in a school district, it's a platform of, there's so many jobs in after school or in school itself. You have technology, you have maintenance, you have so many levels of things. And so getting them through the door and after school is a platform to them to at least have us on our resume for them to build further into the district. So it's not just selfishly having them now, but also being able to provide a longevity to the district as a whole has been something we really invested a lot of time in.
Yeah, here at Rincon Valley, we're also very blessed by being part of a school district. So one of the things that we do is we've worked with the school district to create 8-hour positions for people who have jobs during the school day, and then also jobs need a couple of more hours to complete their benefits or their 8-hour day. And so those folks who have 6 hours in the school day and 2 hours with us, they generally stick around because that's their full professional job. A big part of staff retention for us has just been pay. We have over the last 6 years gone from about $12 an hour to the starting pay for our daycare assistants being over $20 an hour. And, we have about 70 staff, and we've only got 4 people leaving this year, 2 of whom actually retired because they've completed their work. They're not even like resigning to go on to different things. Um, so, that's been two simple pieces that are a big part of it. And then because we're a district and the part of a union, like the raises are laid out by the union contract, and we definitely do present that to people. And we do have a lot of people. The people we lose are often people who are going on to take bigger roles in the district. And so that becomes part of their career ladder for them.
Patrick, I know one of the things that you're really, have been investing in over the last few years is your relationships with the sites, with the schools and the admin at the schools. And can you talk a little bit about how those relationships have kind of impacted staffing and just how you kind of stay in touch with each unique school to make sure that you're leveraging, as much synergy there as possible to make sure staffing's in a great place?
I think the thing when it comes to partnering with the schools that you're at, it's not just from a staffing positivity, but as a community culture from the parents to the kids to the other district staff and things like that is really building a partnership with our site leaderships, our site directors, them being our on-site directors are full-time positions, so 8 hours a day. So they're physically on each campus with their district admin, their principals, their assistant principals. And so all of our schools in our district participate in, for example, PBIS. They all have PBIS systems in place. And so our staff are also a part of those committees. When it comes to site council, at each site where they express like school concerns, our staff are also on those committees and representing themselves. And when I first started 15, 20 years ago, it was definitely us versus them mentality of we are the school, and when parents are having struggles or issues, oh, it's after school, it's them. But really building that partnership with the administration, we many of our sites meet weekly with those admin, just touch base, being like, hey, when there are after school events, when we do fall carnival festivals and things like that, our department at those sites, they also have booths. And for many of our families, parents are seeing us every single day. Me as a parent, I communicate with my child's teacher once a year for twice a year for conferences. And aside from that, the amount of interaction you have with those are very limited. But from a parent to after school, you're seeing parents at drop off, you're seeing them at pickup, you're seeing them multiple times a day, every single day. And so when you're having a booth at the schools, the kids are super excited to see you and be like, oh, it's Mr. Patrick or it's Miss Kayla. And they're coming up and they're seeing our booths and things like that. We partner when we do our out of school time. So right now we're doing summer camp at some of our locations. And a part of that, because we round robin, and so I'm going to be at Seth's school this year, but next year we're having summer at Kayla's school, and we kind of go around to that. When we're done with summer, we kind of get back to the school, and so we're like, hey, here's X amount of money. What would you like for? Because community ed funds are a little bit more flexible because things don't have to come out of M&O and capital funds and things of that nature. And so we're able to get back to the school being like, hey, thank you for hosting us. We want to get back to your teachers by, it could be campus shirts, it could be classroom materials, and things like that. And so really building those connections with the admin and being faces to the school is not just after school, it is a community. It is, you are all in it together, has been really, really positive. And then staff want to, when they're feeling accepted by admin and it's not just those people, again, it creates a culture of just excitement and acceptance, and people want, they want to work for that.
Thank you, Patrick. Well, as we kind of transition then into the classroom itself, into the after school day, I know that, when we kind of asked a couple weeks ago, we talked about what's most top of mind this upcoming school year. And the first resounding answer was resources around mental health, and supporting students, supporting staff as they support students. And so I think that to start, Kayla, if you want to talk through, I know you were very excited about the new grant that you found, the new opportunity to kind of deliver more resources to staff and your students. Do you want to talk about what that is and how you're kind of hoping to deploy it and what that's going to look like for you?
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, we did receive a grant through the Y of the USA for mental health, youth mental health. And really, we've kind of found that early on, if we better want to support our children, we really had to invest in our staff when it came to the mental health piece. So the very first thing we did with this grant was provided youth mental health first aid training to our teams. We did it through the National Council for Mental Wellbeing. I did send you that link, Tom. I don't know if we could put it in for everybody. Um, it's a great course. It's virtual and it was really helpful for our team. It really allowed our team to be better equipped to recognize warning signs, how to respond appropriately to certain things, and how to connect families with resources. One of the biggest things we took away from that is that we didn't have to have all the answers and we didn't have to know how to handle each thing that came, but knowing who to connect the families with was really a big pull from that. The second biggest piece from this grant that we are incorporating specifically, for next year is incorporating SEL into our curriculum and making it a part of every single day. We use the scaled learning curriculum, which is a curriculum created by the Seattle YMCA. Through that, they incorporate SEL activities from Sanford Harmony. So I also can get that link for you guys as well. And it's really just weaving those activities into our day-to-day curriculum. Activities surrounding building empathy, problem solving, emotional regulation skills. We just realized, having those activities just naturally and organically be a part of the day really wasn't, you know, signifying to the kids like, hey, we're going to teach you how to, regulate your emotions. It was kind of just built in there naturally. And then the last piece is really just supporting our staff continuously. Um, Training for this specifically can't be a one-time event. So we, realized that we really had to continue the conversation in leadership meetings, in staff meetings, coaching sessions, really just kind of making sure that we were supporting the staff as we kind of unrolled some of these new things. One of our most successful kind of pilots that we did at the very end of this school year was we created Zen dens or calm down corners at each site. And they have been a huge, huge blessing. We kind of set the ground rules, if you will, to the kids when we set them up and said, listen, there really is no restriction here except, when you feel that you need to be here, here's some resources that you could use. And it has fidgets and squishies and, SEL books that they don't know are SEL books. So it's been really successful. And it seems like it's been very helpful to our students as well.
And I know, Kayla, you referenced some resources and books throughout the day. I know another thing that kind of has started to come up that I believe multiple of you are using is actually physical spaces. And specifically, I think one of the resources that we were talking about are active calming spaces. And I know a couple of you are using it, but do you want to talk about how you've implemented that and where you've looked to for guidance on what does that space look like and what role can it serve in the classroom?
Yeah, so like I said, we do not have our own space. So all of our childcare programs are in elementary schools, churches, so we're in community spaces. So everything we do, we have to break up and break down, same day. So one of the biggest challenges, I guess, when we were starting this was how can we make that possible? So we utilized, bean bags and area rugs, and really tried to make a clear spot in our shared space. You're in a big loud cafeteria, so it's kind of hard to think of a Zen den in there. But we, do our best to really make it look as though that is an actual space for them to kind of get away to. Um, I have I could send you guys, some resources again that we use, some actual links to materials, but all the kids are into those like Neato squishies. We do a lot with those, the timers that they can flip over on their own. Just really kind of setting it up so that it's a comfortable spot, it's calming, visual resources for them to have as well as tactical.
We've also done a lot of work in the calming spaces and actually received some recognition through our community ed association too for the work we've been doing. We, like Kayla, are two in spaces where are in big loud areas, spots we need to set up and take down. It is a part of our environment setup for all of our sites that they do need to have a calming space. Those can be tents too, and believe it or not, I know most of us think, oh no, tents, kids are gonna go in and mess around, but actually with the right setup, it's been a great thing to see someone need to go take a break and they put a sign on it in use and come out. And we just introduced active calming spaces this year because yes, calming spaces to regulate, and our kiddos need an active, so to get the energy out. So we've now instituted active spaces, and that can look of a lot of different things in the space of couple where we have space. We've done a hopscotch. So it's on the floor where kids can do a hopscotch. And so now we're expanding that even into just not calming, but in active calming spaces.
And Amy, if possible, we can work after this too to kind of look at some of the resources that you've put together and what we can maybe share, because I know you have some good examples of what active calming spaces look like in reality and how they can play out in the classroom. I know, Seth, around this conversation, you've talked a little bit about, and I'm hoping you can unpack a little bit about the work that you're doing, also just kind of communicating with families. And I know you've referenced, the organizations in the area that have supported you throughout this, but I know you're feeling excited about the work that you're doing with your families and the students as it relates to kind of creating these spaces and just supporting mental health throughout the day.
Yeah, thank you. We've partnered with a couple of local organizations, mostly in terms of working with students with disabilities. But I think one of the takeaways that we've learned is that like the accommodations that we create for students with disabilities can benefit everybody. And so you should really be looking at your spaces from the perspective of universal design. So like, sure, there are some students in the day who noise canceling headphones is part of their school day. But they're like noise canceling headphones can help a lot of students. So can weighted blankets and fidget toys and time timers, visual schedules, for students. Those are things that, are created for students with disabilities in their special classrooms, but like it also helps the kids in your classroom. And we generally look at it kind of from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We're like, sure, we have to meet the basic physical needs of the students, but they also have to feel safe in their space and feel like they belong. And having a visual schedule for kids who can't read yet because they're in TK, goes a long way to making them feel comfortable and making them feel like they belong. And then that doesn't impact the staff's mental health as much because their kids are getting along better. To go back to something Kayla said about, professional development days, like this can't be a one-time training for staff. So including some setup time, we have 5 professional development days built into the school year for our staff, and we come back on themes. It's not a new thing every time, and so working with students with disabilities in those accommodations is going to be something we're going to hit 1 or 2 times a year. And we brought in SELPA, which is the Special Education Local Planning area. So that's part of our County Office of Education, which I understand might not be available to like, private providers out there. But getting them on board because and like we also work with a Common Ground Society, which is a private group, and both SELPA and Common Grounds have done training for our staff. So like reach out to those organizations to, help out with your professional development, but also those organizations are the ones that are interacting with the students who may have additional challenges succeeding and their parents. And so they have become a real ally because the parents will bring complaints to them. And because we are allied with them, they will come to us and say, "Hey, here's a concern that a parent brought up about some of the wording on your website," and we're like, "Oh, no big deal. We can totally change that." And then when we change the wording, it de-escalates parents, and they're more willing to work with us on creating the accommodations that their students need, and also listening to us when we say, "This is what our program can offer. Do you think it's a good fit for your student?" So, you know, in addition to that, we had a counselor developed social emotional program that we did for our older students, and it was the most popular program. We did not have to convince older students to go to it. They just loved it. So, those are some of the things that we've done, and taking those accommodations you need to make for students with disabilities and making it a universal design for everybody in your classroom has really paid off for us.
And for those joining us, I also want to call out that Foundations has some great resources on their website around, I know social emotional learning, and just creating resources for students that have mental health needs throughout the day. So that's a great resource to check out. And then, I guess I'd like to also open it up just as a question to all the panelists. A lot of these organizations that you referenced are wonderful. They also might be specific in some cases, as you've referenced, specific to you. If you are looking for more resources or a local partner, how do you go about, from your process and your programming, where do you kind of go about looking to try to find, who might be a nice organization nearby to help me navigate this? And what's kind of worked from just a research perspective?
I'll chime in real quick. I know for Arizona, we have a community education association. And so we come together as a large group of like-minded community educations all throughout public schools throughout the state of Arizona. And I'm sure many states have a avenue of that. And so that's definitely from a public school standpoint. But here in Arizona, we also have a AZ Case, which is another after school alliance group that comes together, and it's more state focused. Like we have some really great ones with Beyond After School. You have NAA, you have some larger things that are definitely more national with things, but finding a group or an association that is kind of specific to what you need, if it's just public schools or if it's just after school, things like that. Trying to, if you're not a part of a group or committee or that, is trying to see if that is there. And if not, Arizona didn't used to have one, and then some like-minded community education directors started reaching out and came together and created the association. So it might be one of those things as reaching out, phone a friend, and just being like, "Hey, do you have anything that can help out?" But I definitely think that's a huge resource on being able to learn things that are more relevant to your local neighborhoods or state standards, licensing, things of that.
All right. Well, we're going to continue the conversation. We're going to stay um, inside the classroom, but we're going to talk a little bit about engaging older youth. I know this came up as one of the things that I think everyone was kind of excited about tackling in the future, and how starting to really create unique experiences for fifth graders that might be different and more appropriate than the same experience you'd be looking to create for a kindergartner. And I know that, Seth, you kind of have a unique opportunity coming up based on some changes in the district, but do you want to walk through what you're hoping to accomplish with some of the new centers and spaces that you're opening at Rincon Valley?
Yeah, thank you so much. So indeed, this was put into motion by changes in our district, but we took hold of it and are very excited for the opportunity. So, we are a TK through sixth grade district. And, we ended up closing a school, which made a space available to us. We still pay rent to the district. And so what we ended up doing is we made the decision to keep our TK through second graders on campus at their elementary schools for their before and after school program. And then for after school, our third through sixth graders are actually going to be concentrated on a single off-site location. And even though that means there will be busing, and it might be a slightly less convenient pickup for some parents. We are seeing a much higher registration rate for our older grades because of a couple of things that means. Because you're probably familiar with this, but the older the students get, the fewer you have in each grade. And so, when we have three rooms at a school, there's one room that's entirely filled with TK and kindergarten. And then there's one room that's entirely first and second grade. And then the third room is third through sixth graders. And those third graders do not feel comfortable with the sixth graders. And there might be like four or five sixth graders in the whole program, and they just don't feel like they have enough peers around. So by concentrating the older students at an off-site location, we are now able to make entire group classrooms of third graders, fourth graders, fifth graders, sixth graders. And it really allows us to make the programming intentionally uh, targeted for them. So for example, we are planning a bit more of an open program where, it is a site where we are able to close the gates. And after we do an initial check-in, our plan is to create more of an open program where students can choose to go to a variety of different activities on campus. We will have a library, which will have quiet reading and homework support. We will have one of the rooms turn into a chess and board game room. There will be a daily garden club for students. And all those things I've mentioned so far are run by our daycare assistant staff. And then we also work with enrichment providers. And one of the choices we have made is we only work with local enrichment providers. I'm sure everybody is getting hit up by, sort of larger regional or national people who are like, we'd love to sell you our curriculum. And then you either have to find the staff or they are sending someone from out of the side of the community to run that program for you. And we have a lot of success with local enrichment providers, like people who already have a brick and mortar karate school in Santa Rosa, California, now also do something with our program. And so they're connected and they really want to be a part of our program and support it and do a good job because those become their clients outside of the school day. And so for our older students, we're putting together a marimba band, which will meet 2 times a week and put on presentations. We are having a Minecraft coding, a beat making academy, and then we also have the National Academy of Athletics coming in and doing a essentially setting up a sports league for us. So we're going to have a good 180 students in third through sixth grade on this campus. And there will be sports that mirror the athletics leagues that are happening at the schools. So basketball and volleyball at the same time. And it'll be 5 days a week. And they're coming in to run programs Tuesday and Thursday. And then our staff will take it over Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And there are a couple of schools where the parents don't have to send their kids to this off-site program because it's a bit further away, and they're choosing to because it's more age appropriate. The kids are excited about it, and they're excited about being with kids their age. So those are some of the big things that the students are excited for. And one of the biggest things is like especially for older students, that agency and choice is a really big part of them staying happy. Obviously, also social time. But creating this open program where they can go from spot to spot to spot and do whatever they want each day and just spend an hour and a half reading in the library if they feel like it is a big part of what we have seen keeps the older students engaged and excited to come.
That's awesome, Seth. And to be clear, that space opens up this coming school year. Is that true?
It does. So
We might have to do a follow-up webinar a year from now and see how the first year went.
yeah, and I have a lot of confidence in it because it's based on things that I've done in day camps before and working for outdoor schools in the past,
Yeah.
Which typically work with only fourth grade and up for the ones that I've worked with. So we've seen a lot of success, but yeah, I'd love to do a follow-up.
And then Amy, on the kind of a very similar topic, do you want to talk a little bit about the Minneapolis Kids Youth Advisory Council and some of the work that you guys have done there?
Yeah, so we have a program-wide youth advisory council where we've asked a representative who is in fourth or fifth grade. During the school year, we primarily serve pre-K through fifth is our audience. Our middle schools are separate, so typically we don't serve them during the school year. So for those in fourth or fifth grade, they can join the council and they meet monthly. And over the course of the last couple of years, we've really ramped it up to where this year they have their own budget. They do a mix of meeting virtually and in person at sites, and they've actually taken 2 field trips this year as well as a council. One to the African American Museum here in Minneapolis, and another to Open Books, where they did printmaking. And then they also did a service learning where they created instructions for sites to create toys for animals, collected them from the sites and donated them. So it's really been a cool thing as the last couple years we've seen that grow. Next year, their plans are to get a little more involved and go to our state capitol and do some advocating on behalf of the program. So it's been really cool to see that grow. Additionally, because of that, a lot of our sites now have site leadership programs. So while we can't have everyone in the Youth Advisory Council, so we have to have one per site. The sites now have taken that and really themselves kind of replicated it so they can make site decisions and support the younger kids in the program as well.
Thank you. So when we were planning as a group, we were talking about obviously we're living in a world of change and implementing new things. And I think that something came out of the end of it that I thought was really great. And, all the leaders on the call today on the panel were talking about how they're actually really trying to focus on consistency in the year ahead. In a world of change, in a world of things moving faster and faster, focusing on not so much on what can be new, but what are things that we can continue to create a consistent experience. And I think that, I'm going to have Kayla start because Kayla brings a unique perspective just working at a YMCA versus the other three being at school districts. And Kayla, I know that your organization is going through change and going through growth, but throughout that, you obviously have to make sure that what you deliver every day remains consistent for students. So if you want to speak a little bit to some of the ways that you're making sure the quality of your programming is staying the same despite there being just more and more to do day after day.
Yeah, so not to sound like a broken record, but definitely, first things first is investing in our team, our staff, making sure that that onboarding and mentorship and leadership is consistent. So that way, when the growth happens and when the changes happen, it's not frightening and it's not, making them run for the hills. So really just, having that open communication, kind of keeping everybody in the loop on these things. The other thing that we've really been working hard to do is standardizing our systems. So in RY, we have really 3 big buckets of care. So there's the school age, there's camp, and then there's early learning and UPK. We found the more consistent we have all of our systems throughout all of those buckets, the easier it was to make sure that that quality was never wavering from one department to the other. So that way our students can come in as a toddler, and they're going through the early learning center. They're getting that same high quality care. Then when their children age out and they're going into the school age programs, they're still met with that same standard. Then they go off to summer camp and they join our teen programs. So really just making sure that everything is, consistent across the board. And then just really trying to stay connected to our families, our staff, really just making sure that that communication is just always open. I know that for a lot of people, change can be really scary, and we don't ever want anybody to feel like they were in a silo or separated from the bigger group. So really we just, try to keep that consistency, that communication open. We want all of our families to always feel like their child is welcome, they're welcome. So yeah, we're just, building up our staff really is the first kind of line of defense that we have for everything that has been challenging for us going into, new school years. We really feel that putting that work into your team is going to go so much farther than a lot of the other things that we were trying. So, really retaining our quality staff was probably our biggest, you know, combating against, the big growth and the change that we have.
And Patrick, I know you spoke to it earlier. I know you spoke to it earlier around the relationships that you're keeping with the schools to make sure there's cultural alignment. As you look throughout the year, obviously you've done a lot of work to get that in a good place today. What does that relationship look like throughout the school year and your cadences and communications? And how do you kind of maintain that working relationship and investment throughout the school year?
From the admin perspective, it's consistency. Much like many of us, education is very hard to navigate. You're consistently having shortage of teachers, influx of teachers, admin leaving, changing schools. And so it's trying to maintain the stability, and the consistency with it is still kind of pushing because sometimes there's a lot on everybody's plate. But it's making time for it because it matters. And so sometimes it can feel like a chore. It's like I have 100 other things I got to be doing right now. But as soon as you start to commit and you make a commitment, you have to follow through with it. Something else when it comes to that kind of collaboration that our director implemented this year or last year were something she calls skip levels, to where my direct reports will once a quarter they meet with her, so they skip me, they go on to the next supervisor, and they do monthly meetings, and they're talking about life goals. How can she help them, support them in what their professional personal goals are and things like that. So that's one of those things. But definitely the biggest is you have to make time for it, and it doesn't matter if you're drowning and you don't have the time to. You have to commit, and you put in the work on the front end, and it makes everything easier on the back end. You're not constantly having to play catch up. Is you front load the work, and then it will start to streamline and make everything so much simpler after that.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Well, I think, we have 7 minutes left, so I think we're going to probably transition out. And as a reminder, what we're going to do is we are going to take everything we discussed today, put it together as a list of resources. We'll also touch base after this as a group here with the panelists to kind of get all the links that were referenced and all the organizations, and try to get you a tangible list of things that you can maybe go one by one and check off as you try to implement new things ahead of the upcoming school year. I am going to hop back to the deck here just to round this out and share my screen one more time. All right. So, first of all, I want to thank the Foundations organization for creating the space today. As referenced, a lot of great resources on their website. They also have the Beyond School Hours Conference, which is a great way to get a lot of the resources and news that we talked about today. A lot of great programming that takes place at it, a lot of good vendors that are doing really cool things in the after school space. So we are grateful. Thank you for creating the webinar and in the space to have this conversation today. I'd also like to thank the panelists. I know that the day-to-day of a childcare leader is very busy, and it means a lot that you not only took this time to spend it with me and with Arux, but obviously just that you gave it back to the after-school community. So thank you. We're grateful. And then finally, if you are interested in learning more about Arux and our organization, and if the conversation around after school that we had today is one that you want to be a part of, we would love to meet. Our platform works with a variety of different organizations and a lot of different program types. So if you have families signing up for programs, we would love to tell you what that would look like for them to do on ARUX, and how we also help with communications and help with making sure that we put your staff in a good spot, that they have good technology to use that helps them alleviate pain throughout the day, that we give you tools to communicate and bridge connections with your families. We would love to discuss that. And the best way to get in touch is send us an email at hello@arux.com, or you can visit arux.com to learn more. But with that, I want to thank everyone again for joining. Thank you, Foundations, and then thank you to our panelists for taking time out of your day. You guys were wonderful.
Thanks for having us, Tom. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say on behalf of Foundations, thank you so much, Tom, Kayla, Patrick, Amy, Seth, for being here, for making the time for this conversation. I am going to encourage our audience, please reach out to Tom and the team at ARUX if you are looking for resources and solutions, and be on the lookout for follow-up from them, and that we will share regarding all of the resources that were discussed, because there were so many things thrown around throughout this session. I'll also encourage you, please take a moment to complete the survey about the session. The link is in the chat. We value your feedback. And also, those of you who attended live and complete the survey will receive your certificate of attendance within a week. And so we hope you will think about joining us for the next session, which is the Web of Sustainability Part 3 on July 15th. Registration information will be in your email soon. And so I just want to say one more thank you to this wonderful panel for all the ideas and resources and just breath of fresh air and energy that you offer to folks who might feel a little stuck. It's a hard time of year when you're in the middle of summer programming and trying to like just make it through. And so this energy is a great refresher for folks. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Hillary.
Yeah, absolutely. So grab your survey, fill it out, and make sure you reach out to ARUX, arux.com, and hello at arux.com.
Perfect. All right.
Give everybody a second to grab that, and we will wrap up for today.